Hi, welcome back. So we are at the section of control flow toolkit. I think one of the most important section for you to understand, once you comprehend the idea of them, I think you will be able to write any piece of code and using the syntax from any other language. It doesn't really matter because every language has the exact same control flow toolkit. I believe that perhaps the most well-known statement type is the if statement. Now, let's assume I would like to ask the user to enter a value, okay, an integer. So I could use the built-in function they call the prompt, okay, just like the terminal. So I could use something called the input function. Basically, it asks you to write the letter, please enter an integer. Built-in function input. Basically, what it does, it takes whatever input and convert it into a string. What I would do, I just can take all of this, pass it to another built-in function, call it an integer function, and all of which I would like to assign it to just a temporary variable, call it x, instead of just dealing it one time on the fly. So if I would have to run this, okay, as expected, I am prompted with this screen saying, please enter an integer. I will enter 5. I just print, and here we go. Perfect. Let me run it one more time, but this time let me see I have entered E. And run it again. I'm running into an error. What does the error say? This is invalid literal for an integer. So basically what happened, we cannot enter basic alphabetic, and I take that alphabetic and I put it in an integer. This isn't correct things to do. If we would have to delete this integer and run this one more time, I could write alphabetic letter, enter again, there is no problem. That's fine because I did not convert it into an integer. So I have the syntax is quite clear. But where is f here? If x, I mean this integer, let me put it less than 0. Okay, I will say the value is negative. So how about else if, let's say x is equal to 0, print the value is 0. Else if one more time, say x is 1, I will say print the value is 1. Else just print the value larger than 1. Okay, let's try to write this. Let's try to write -5. Okay, I got into a problem here. The logic of comparison less than does not support between instance of string and an integer. What does that mean? You see here when we did the comparison of x less than 0, we assumed already that x is an integer value because these comparison like less than, equal, or larger, they only valid to be applied between two variables that from the same kind of integer. But in this case, x, it isn't an integer. We said that input, return, take the value and return it as a string. So what I need to do here, okay, let me show you. I'm gonna do x is equal. One more time, I will use the integer as an x. Okay, let me run this one more time and try again by writing -5 and just enter. It just worked as expected, perfectly good. The value is negative because my value was less than 0. And if I run it again and say, for example, I'm going to pay 50, the value is larger than 1. Everything is working perfect. But let me show you one more problem here. Again, here we go. If I put T, any alphabetic letter, and I enter, I run into another problem. What the problem is say, this is invalid. I cannot take the value alphabetic and convert it to an integer. So what we want to think of, we want to think of a logic, right? And then based on the logic that we understand, we can start to the syntax of the language that we are using. For example, in this case, I know this prompt function is returning a string and I convert it to integer to do these comparisons, right? But then I ran into a problem. This comparison requires that make sure that this x is always integer, but I have a problem that I cannot guarantee that the user have already entered an integer value. Maybe he entered alphabetic. So in this case, I want to make a condition, say if x somehow is not alphabetic, I want you to do all of this, right? Else, it means if it isn't to print your entry, for example, is not a number. Now, what we're going to do here, this is the question. Now, what I would have done if I am using any programming language at all, I would just visit their documentation, check out whether there is a built-in function does this for me to find out whether the input is a number or not. Or maybe I even have to go around it. If it isn't there, I have to write it on my own. So I hope the logic isn't there. Now, luckily, Python provide me actually with a function. Built-in function is called isNumeric to give me a value true or false. That means it checks the type of this value. Let's try to run this. Now, once again, let me say I put 5 here. What he say true, it is a numeric. Let's run it one more time. And let's put E here. Watch carefully, return false. Now, everything is under control. What I would have to do then, if is num. Now, what does it mean? It's automatically in Python syntax says, if you write if true, I mean, if this is true, this is the meaning. If isNum is equal to true, I want you to run over this. Else, if it isn't true, it's false, like I enter alphabetic, I want you to run this. Let's try to run now this punch a code using the if statements. Let me say and enter, for example, 3. Yes, the value is larger than 1 because we are in this. The value is larger than 1. Okay, let's try to run this one more time and enter T. And here we go. Your entry is not a number. Exactly, he went to this. So I hope this introduction, a quick review on the first control flow toolkit, the if statement, and the logic of it is quite clear to you. Next, we will be looking at the for statement. I'll see you then.